Welcome, weary traveler of the modern world, to another gentle journey through the mists of time. Before we set sail on tonight's peaceful exploration of the most audacious maritime adventure in human history, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue these tranquil voyages through history's hidden corridors, and it lets me know you find comfort in these nighttime wanderings through the greatest stories ever told. Now settle in comfortably, close your eyes, and let me carry you back over 1,000 years to witness how a handful of Norse explorers became the first Europeans to touch the shores of the New World. Tonight, I invite you to imagine standing on the windswept shores of Greenland around the year 985, watching as Erik the Red establishes the westernmost European settlement on Earth. The salt air carries the sound of axes shaping timber and voices calling across bustling harbors as these hardy Norse colonists build their new lives on the edge of the known world. Yet even from this remote outpost, human curiosity and the lure of undiscovered lands would drive them further west, into waters no European had ever sailed, toward a destiny that would forever change our understanding of exploration and discovery. Close your eyes and drift back to that remarkable autumn day around 986. When young Bjarni Herjolfsson set sail from Iceland to visit his father, who had joined Erik the Red's colonization of Greenland. Picture this experienced merchant captain, as storms and fog enveloped his ship for days, driving him far off course into uncharted waters. When the weather finally cleared, Bjarni found himself staring at a mysterious coastline covered with forests and low hills, a land unlike anything described in the stories of Greenland. Though his crew urged him to explore this strange new territory, Bjarni chose duty over curiosity, sailing north until he finally reached his father's farmstead at Herjolfsnes. But seeds of discovery had been planted. Bjarni's tales of the wooded lands to the west spread throughout the Greenland settlements, capturing the imagination of Erik the Red's sons, particularly young Leif Erikson. Around the year 999, Leif purchased Bjarni's ship and assembled a crew of 35 men to investigate these mysterious lands. Unlike his father Erik, who had earned his nickname the Red from his fiery temperament and red hair, Leif would become known as the Lucky for the extraordinary discoveries that awaited him. Imagine Leif's longship as it followed Bjarni's route in reverse, first encountering a desolate land of stone slabs and glaciers that he named Helluland, meaning flat stone land, likely the southern reaches of Baffin Island. Continuing southward, they reached a flat, forested coast that Leif called Markland, or Forest Land, probably the coast of Labrador. But it was their third landfall that would capture their hearts and change history forever. Here they found a place of such beauty and abundance that Leif named it Vinland, Wineland, for the wild grapes that grew in profusion alongside self-sown wheat and timber of extraordinary quality. The Norse explorers had stumbled upon a paradise. Archaeological evidence from Meadows in Newfoundland has confirmed that Viking expeditions established settlements in North America exactly 1,000 years ago in 1021, as determined by a precise tree ring analysis of timbers cut by Norse axes. Picture these hardy explorers as they built the first European structures on the North American continent. 8 buildings constructed of sod over wooden frames, designed to house 30 to 160 people through the harsh northern winters. The settlement at Meadows was far more than a temporary camp. Archaeological discoveries reveal workshops for iron smithing, carpentry, and boat repair, along with evidence that both men and women lived there, indicated by the presence of spindles and bone needles for textile work. These were serious colonization attempts, not mere trading expeditions. The Norse brought livestock, established workshops, and created the infrastructure needed for permanent settlement. They found butternuts that don't grow naturally north of New Brunswick, proving that their explorations extended far south of their main base. Yet Vinland held mysteries beyond its natural abundance. The land was already inhabited by peoples the Norse called Skraelings, meaning barbarians or foreigners. Initial encounters were peaceful, with fascinating descriptions of trade between the two worlds. The indigenous peoples brought furs and were particularly eager to trade for red cloth, while showing intense curiosity about the Norse cattle they had never seen before. Picture these early moments of cultural contact, two entirely different civilizations meeting for the first time on the shores of the New World. But paradise would prove fragile. The most ambitious attempt to establish a permanent Norse colony was led by Thorfinn Karlsefni around 1070. This wealthy Icelandic merchant married Gudrid Thorbjarnardottir, the widow of Erik the Red's son Thorstein, and organized an expedition of unprecedented scale. Unlike previous explorations, Karlsefni's fleet of 3 ships carried not just warriors and traders, but entire families, craftsmen, farmers, and livestock, representing the first serious European attempt at permanent colonization of North America. During their 3-year stay in Vinland, something remarkable occurred that would forever link the Old and New Worlds. Gudrid gave birth to a son they named Snorri Thorfinnsson, making him the first European child born in the Americas. Picture this moment of profound historical significance, a baby's cry echoing through the North American wilderness, announcing the arrival of a new chapter in human migration. Snorri would grow up to become a prominent figure in Iceland, playing a crucial role in the Christianization of his homeland, his descendants including bishops and notable figures whose lineage stretched for centuries. Yet even as new life took root in Vinland, tensions with the Skraelings escalated into violence. The sagas describe how a Norse bull, unfamiliar and terrifying to the indigenous peoples, broke free and charged toward them during a trading session. The terrified Skraelings fled, interpreting this as an attack, and returned in greater numbers with weapons drawn. Despite their superior armor and weapons, the Norse found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer numbers and guerrilla tactics of their opponents. The indigenous warriors used hit-and-run attacks, bows and slings, turning their intimate knowledge of the landscape into a decisive advantage. Thorfinn Karlsefni, recognizing that his small colony could not survive continuous warfare, made the difficult decision to abandon Vinland after 3 years. The Norse colonists loaded their ships with valuable timber and other resources, taking young Snorri back to Greenland and eventually to Iceland. The dream of a permanent Norse presence in North America was ending. But their brief moment in the New World had proven that the Atlantic Ocean was not an insurmountable barrier. The final chapter of Norse exploration in Vinland belongs to one of history's most controversial figures. Freydis Eiriksdottir, daughter of Erik the Red and sister to Leif Erikson, organized her own expedition to Vinland around 1014. The sagas present 2 dramatically different versions of Freydis, one portraying her as a heroic figure who frightened off attackers while heavily pregnant, the other depicting her as a ruthless manipulator who murdered her Icelandic partners in cold blood when their business arrangement soured. Whether hero or villain, Freydis represents the fierce determination that drove Norse exploration to its limits. Picture the advanced seamanship that made these incredible voyages possible. Viking navigators crossed the North Atlantic using sophisticated techniques that combined practical knowledge with remarkable instruments. They used sun compasses to determine direction in clear weather, and may have employed mysterious sunstones, crystalline minerals that could detect the sun's position even through clouds by analyzing polarized light patterns. Their mental maps included detailed knowledge of currents, bird flight patterns, whale feeding grounds, and the taste and smell of different waters. The Vikings followed a primary sailing route along the 60th parallel between Bergen, Norway, and the southern tip of Greenland, a journey that required extraordinary skill and courage. Their shallow draft longships could navigate both open oceans and inland waterways, allowing them to explore rivers and fjords impossible for other vessels. When they reached the coasts of Helluland, Markland, and Vinland, they could beach their ships and establish temporary camps wherever opportunity beckoned. The legacy of these Norse explorations extends far beyond their brief presence in North America. 5 centuries before Columbus would accidentally encounter the Caribbean islands, Viking explorers had deliberately sought out and colonized the New World. They established the first European settlements, conducted the first trade with indigenous peoples, witnessed the first European birth on the continent, and proved that the Atlantic Ocean could be crossed and recrossed by determined mariners willing to push beyond the edges of their known world. Archaeological evidence continues to reveal new insights into the scope of Norse exploration. The precision dating of Meadows to exactly 1021 demonstrates that medieval Scandinavian explorers possessed navigational skills and organizational abilities that enabled regular contact between Europe and America. The industrial-scale infrastructure discovered at the site, including evidence of iron production, boat repair facilities, and textile work, proves that this was no accidental landfall, but part of a systematic exploration and settlement effort. The Vinland sagas, written down in Iceland during the 13th century, preserve the oral traditions that kept these remarkable achievements alive for posterity. The saga of the Greenlanders and the saga of Erik the Red, though written independently and containing different details, together provide our primary source for understanding how Norse explorers accomplished what would not be repeated by other Europeans for 500 years. These sagas transform legendary figures like Leif the Lucky, Thorfinn Karlsefni, brave Gudrid, and controversial Freydis into three-dimensional people whose courage, curiosity, and flaws mirror our own. Consider the profound isolation these explorers must have felt as they sailed beyond the edge of their world. Unlike later European explorers who followed established trade routes or had some knowledge of their destinations, the Norse ventured into complete unknown, guided only by Bjarni's brief glimpse of distant shores. They had no maps, no astronomical instruments, no knowledge of what peoples or dangers they might encounter. Their courage was absolute, their curiosity boundless, their determination to push beyond every horizon truly extraordinary. The environmental challenges they faced were equally daunting. The medieval warm period that facilitated their explorations was already giving way to cooler conditions that would eventually make their transatlantic voyages impossible. The Greenland settlements that served as their jumping-off point for American explorations would themselves struggle and eventually disappear as climate change made their agricultural lifestyle unsustainable. The Norse explorers were riding the crest of a brief climatic window that made their achievements possible. The reasons for their ultimate failure to maintain a permanent presence in North America were complex. The distances involved made regular supply and communication with Greenland extremely difficult. The hostility of indigenous peoples, who vastly outnumbered the Norse colonists, made peaceful coexistence impossible with the social and technological resources available to medieval Europeans. The lack of easily exploitable resources like gold or silver provided insufficient economic incentive to justify the enormous risks and expenses involved in maintaining transatlantic colonies. Yet their brief moment in the New World left an indelible mark on history. They proved that human curiosity and determination could overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. They demonstrated that the Atlantic Ocean was a highway rather than a barrier for those with sufficient skill and courage. They established the first links between the old and new worlds, creating cultural exchanges that, however brief, forever changed both sides of the encounter. The story of Norse exploration in Vinland reminds us that history is shaped by individuals willing to venture beyond the comfortable boundaries of their known world. Erik the Red, exiled from Iceland, chose to seek new lands rather than accept defeat. Bjarni Herjolfsson, blown off course by storms, had the wisdom to recognize opportunity in apparent misfortune. Leif Erikson transformed second-hand tales into first-hand discovery. Thorfinn Karlsefni risked everything to establish a new life for his family in an unknown land. Even controversial Freydis refused to let convention limit her ambitions. Their legacy echoes through every subsequent voyage of discovery, every decision to explore beyond familiar horizons, every moment when humans choose curiosity over comfort and adventure over safety. Christopher Columbus, despite receiving credit for discovering America, was following in footsteps left 5 centuries earlier by Norse explorers who had already proven that Europeans could reach and settle in the New World. The archaeological site at Meadows stands today as a testament to their achievement, the only confirmed pre-Columbian transoceanic contact between Europe and the Americas. When you visit this windswept coast of Newfoundland, you can walk where Leif Erikson walked, see where Thorfinn Karlsefni built his workshops, and imagine the moment when young Snorri Thorfinnsson took his first breath in the New World. The reconstruction of their sod houses allows modern visitors to experience something of what life was like for these pioneering families as they attempted to create European civilization on American soil. As you drift towards sleep tonight, Remember these remarkable explorers who chose to sail beyond the edge of their known world into waters that promised either death or discovery. Their courage in the face of the unknown, their determination to push beyond every boundary, and their willingness to risk everything for the possibility of something better embodies the human spirit at its finest. They remind us that some of history's greatest achievements come from ordinary people who refuse to accept that any horizon is impossible to reach. The thunder of their axes shaping timber has long since faded from the shores of Vinland, but their spirit endures in everyone who chooses exploration over comfort, discovery over certainty, and adventure over safety. In our modern age of satellite navigation and weather prediction, their accomplishment seems even more remarkable, a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the eternal lure of undiscovered lands beyond the next horizon. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful voyage to the very edge of the medieval world and beyond. If you found tranquility in this exploration of how Norse courage opened pathways between worlds, please like this video and subscribe for more historical bedtime stories. Sleep well, and may your rest be as deep and peaceful as the Atlantic waters that carried these brave explorers to their destiny in the New World.